Welcome to the Remodelers Show, hosted by Kyle Hunt.
Folks, we're live. It's the Tuesday, September 1st edition of the Remodelers Show. And today, what I have planned is just to take a stroll around the Remodelers Community. This is a private Facebook group of 861 of your closest remodeling friends. And there's just a lot of different things that I wanted to point out that I thought would be kind of interesting. So that's what we're going to do today. Let me also do one other thing, which is, and you can see the little link here, I'm going to paste it onto the Facebook group. But if somebody is watching this live today and they're like, you know what, I'm just sitting right here, I got a question for Kyle. If you click that little link that I'll put in the comments as well, you'll pop up at the bottom of my little program and I can click a button and you can just come on live and ask a little question. Maybe there's one or two of you that I'm going to catch live there and that you can come on and we can chit chat back and forth and maybe give you some value and get your question answered. So I am going to paste that link. Join me live and ask your question. Hang on one second. All right, and I will paste that on the old Facebook. All right, cool. So what I wanted to kind of point out and show is just different facets of Remodelers Community. Where this started, and when we scroll up to the top, we can see it established in 2016. Here's the first thing. I think that's a nugget of knowledge and a reminder for you. Building anything worth building takes longer than you expect. Some of you have been building your remodeling business for a number of years, maybe even it's getting into the decade plus. It takes a long time to build something valuable and important. And we just need to be reminded of that. We need to be fast in the micro, in the day in and day out. We need to hustle, we need to go, we need to work, we need to execute. But in the macro, we need to be patient. Again, building anything worth building takes time. And I'm reminded because as I look at this, you know, the first year, the first 2 years, this group wasn't much. I think back to even just the start of my business 12 years ago. It takes time and it's about building brick by brick. So be encouraged by that in your remodeling business. It's going to take longer than you expect to get it to levels that you want. Okay. So this sucker has been around for 4 years. Now we're going on 4 years. And the reason it's got started was because I wanted just to bring some of my clients together so they could chat with each other. And just person by person, we've added to it where it's up to 861. So I wanted to point out a few things so you guys can get some more value out of the group. So one thing is when you get in here now, I'm logged in as an administrator, but you'll have access to several of the things that I'm showing you. You can go in there and you can click on members and you should be able to see a list of members, or at the very least, as you see people posting, that's their personal Facebook page. I only allow people in the group that are using their personal Facebook page. Item number 2 that I want to point out is reach out to people. Did you know that everybody that is a member and that's commenting in Remodelers Community are actually a real live person? Like they have hands, they have legs, they walk around, they like have a home. They're real people. They're not just like these made up online people. And some of the best stories, the most heartwarming stories I've heard are people that see somebody post something on Remodelers Community and then they're brave enough to say, could we talk? Or pick up the phone and just call people or say, you know, would you be willing to kind of walk me through what you were explaining in your answer there? This is a community. I've built this community in a way that everybody leads with just giving and being willing to share. And that's kind of what we're after here. So don't be shy about reaching out to people. Sometimes that 20-minute conversation, that 30-minute conversation can just help you tremendously in working through an issue or give you confidence to try something new. So that's one thing as we kind of take a stroll. That's what we're doing today on today's Remodeler Show. We're just taking a little bit of a stroll through the Remodelers Community Facebook group. So that's one item that I want to encourage you guys to do is reach out to people. Don't be shy about that. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention is inside here is a search feature. So for example, if I typed in job site signs and I searched it, it's a little easier to do this on the desktop version versus the mobile version. But when I search job site signs, it's pulling up from the last 4 years of items, just different times that the phrase job site signs have been used. You might do this with Design Retainer. You might do this with Google reviews. You might do this with whatever topic you're thinking of. But as you go through here, you're going to see, for example, this first one. This is just a little video of me. It's actually taken from when I did a little keynote for the Kitchen Solvers franchise down in Orlando, Florida, when we used to travel and talk to people in person. I made this little post, and wouldn't you know it, example after example after example after example. So when you use this search phrase, there's a lot of times, man, I remember somebody talking about this product or this financing company. Don't be shy about using the search feature. Another thing I'll just point to, just kind of related to job site signs, is make sure that your job site signs are representing your business and the brand and the feel of who you are well. Even here we got Home Run Solutions. They get creative with their business name and their signs. This is a pretty straightforward one, but still it has some design to it. Even the logo is circular and the sign is circular. It just looks classy and sharp. Michael got super creative with his there. Red Oak Remodeling, what Laura and Paul are doing here is professional. So keep that in mind as well. So that's another thing I just wanted to point out, is use that search feature. Okay. So today's Remodeler Show is just taking a stroll through Remodelers Community. Next thing I wanted to kind of show you is, if you've got colleagues, maybe you have an employee on your team, you can invite them to be part of the group. But if you do that, if you can kind of alert them that, no, there's going to be 3 questions that you have to answer, and I am the line of defense as far as, do I approve this person or decline this person? So my friend Damon here was invited by Jared, who's part of the group, 6 days ago, but Damon hasn't answered any questions. And Facebook alerts the person a couple times. And if they've been sitting in here for a week or two, especially once it gets to 2 weeks or so, I'll usually decline it. One thing that I do is I decline more people than I accept into the group. Similar concept of don't be all things to all people. Similar concept to the quality of clients that you work with. In your case, your remodeling business, the quality of clients that you work with is oftentimes the quality of, how the project goes and your stress level and everything else. In this case, I want quality people. I want people that can at least answer the question, are you a residential remodeler? What's your website address? And how did you hear about us? Those are just the 3 questions I ask. And if they're a good fit, I let them in. If they're not, I decline it. So as you invite people to the group, let them know. The other thing you can do is just have them go to remodelerscommunity.com, and they can request to join and then immediately answer those questions. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. There's a lot of people who have invited a key employee, a trade partner, a friend of theirs from NARI or the HPA or Remodelers Advantage Group or Builder 20 Group. So I would love for you to keep inviting folks, let them know that there's some questions to ask, and then just do some praying that I'll let them in. All right, so that's that. Another one is we take a stroll through Remodelers Community. Is one of the things that you'll see that's always tagged at the top is something called Remodelers Community Vault. This is, if you go to remodelersvaultcom, you'll be able to see how to get access to this. And what we have in here are these different categories. There's no charge to get access to this. You just have to be a residential remodeler and fill out the little form. And inside here, you're going to see just a lot of templates, tools, resources, examples in a variety of different topics. This one I just clicked in is related to the sales process. We got financials, field production, marketing, estimating, design, just a lot of different things that you can have access to and that you can download easily, tweak, and make your own and implement it. So that's something that I want to draw your attention to, is remodelersvaultcom. So those were the key things. And the other thing that I was going to do is just kind of pull up the old group here and take a peek at what are some of the recent posts that have been made, and just kind of talk about those for a little bit and think through those together, and let me riff on them a little bit. Let me see if there's anybody. Bram comments, and when we were talking about the job site signs, got to work on my job site sign. Yeah, and it's a little thing. But it's part of our overall marketing efforts, and all of the different elements that make up our brand are either supporting the look and the feel and the brand we want. They're neutral. They're not really helping, not really hurting, or they're disrupting. And if we don't have them up at all, they're disrupting. Or if they're just kind of flimsy, they fall over easily, to improve that so that they're sturdy and they represent the quality of type of work that you do, is a very helpful thing. So, Bram, and then here's the other thing, Bram. That's something you identify that you need to work on. Now, give yourself a SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. Give yourself a deadline for when you want to accomplish that, and then start working back and say, okay, what's the next right thing for me to do to work towards that? Idea, ooh, he showed me job site signs. I need to work on that and improve it. Implementation, SMART goal, deadline, specific, measurable, work backwards. What's the next right thing for me to work on? Business improvement is hard, but it's also sometimes easy when we break it down like that. And it's about executing. Cool. Thanks for chiming in, sir. Cool. All right. So as I kind of scroll through here, one thing to note is, I'm doing this Remodeler Show every day. And if you go to the remodelersvaultcom, you'll be able to, you can see the archives and whatnot. But let's scroll down here and just look at some recent posts, because today's Remodeler Show is about taking a stroll through Remodelers Community Facebook group. Michael Anschel posted something interesting this morning, and this was kind of brought up and based on a thread that was started by Laurel out west. She builds. Laurel posted yesterday about, do we have our prospects, our clients, buy their own materials? What happens when that comes up? As we scroll down, we'll see some of that. But Michael's thought here is just what I like about this topic and how he framed it is, and if I'm going to paraphrase it, you can go back and read it, certainly. But the way he framed it, in my eyes, and kind of my takeaway from it was, we're so absolute. Don't do this. Do this. This is the only way to do it. Right? We see it in politics. We see it in every area of our life right now. There's no gray area. It's this or this. And the idea, part of the value in the Remodelers community and just overall coaching and masterminds and getting insight, is to help us think maybe a little bit differently. Why do I do it that way? That's some interesting insight. Maybe I should consider that. Oh, I haven't even thought about that. Maybe I should try that. We got to have a little bit of an open mind to improvements or things to consider. And that's a lot of what Michael's kind of getting at here is, and it was on the topic of control. Is it valuable for a remodeler to have control of every facet of the project? There's a lot of truth to that, right? It's already complicated enough. A lot of our clients are coming to you guys so that, you can lead them through this project. And if we're not controlling materials, if we're not controlling all of the trades on the project, and they have Uncle Cecil doing the electrical work. I don't know why Uncle Cecil came up. I think my grandma's brother was Uncle Cecil, so for some reason that came up. I don't know any Cecils. I know a Cecil Fielder, Detroit Tigers, 52 home runs back in like 1990, back in my heyday of watching baseball. But Uncle Cecil, if he's doing the electrical, it just throws everything off, right? What happens when he doesn't show up on time? What happens if some of his work is shoddy? There's a lot of complication that can come from that. So often it does make a lot of sense to have this control, and it's a service and it's a value to the homeowner. But what happens when they bring up, can we buy materials? There's a lot of conversation in yesterday's post, again, from Laurel. You can look it up, and just some really good, varied, but thought out feedback. And then this post today is already getting some good thoughts. One thing I wanted to kind of comment on is something that Paul wrote right up top here. Oh, already 6 likes or loves. Paul said, I want to control the production side because one of our goals is to minimize lifestyle disruption for the client. However, that control does not come from hard rules like you can't provide materials because we don't allow that, but more from a building of trust so that the client gives us permission to have that control. We want to have control, but we never want the client to feel like they do not. Interesting insight. So a lot of good insight related to that. So again, what we're doing today on today's Remodeler Show is we're just taking a stroll through Remodelers Community. I pointed out several things and features that you may not be familiar with at the start of the show, and now we're just kind of cruising on through recent posts and seeing what we can find and letting me add my 2 cents to it. Brian did mention deadline for sure, or it gets put to the bottom of the list. And Bram, did I say Bram? Bram, the other thing on that is this reminder of there's only so much time we have to work on the business, right? Most of you have a lot of your time is devoted to working in the business and executing things and doing things and selling and production. So if we only have a finite amount of time to work on the business, we need to be very thoughtful and purposeful on narrowing down the number of things that we focus on improving on the business. Is our job site signs near that top of the list? Is that something that takes precedence over anything else you're working on? How many on the business things can you effectively work on in a month? In September 1st, what is your on the business thing this month? And if you focus on something, you knock it out in the first week, mazel tov, and let's work on the next thing. But oftentimes we try to do 5 things at once and we get much less implementation as a result of that. So keep that in mind as you think about deadlines and kind of prioritizing. Cool. Haven't seen this one yet. Gerald Hayes said, I heard this quote about leadership. Here's a definition of leadership. Embedding the capacity for greatness in the people and practices of an organization and decoupling it from the personality of the leader. The paradox is that more traditional leadership creates more unthinking followership. I get that. Less top-down leadership creates more engaged leadership at every level of an organization. My quick thought there, my quick take there, and it might be an interesting video to watch, is in order to have a real long-standing longevity, a team around you that says, I work there. That's where I work, and actually want to make a career out of it. They are seeing growth areas for them in their career. They're seeing how they're not going to be just this for the next 10 years, but there's actual training and education and improvement and perhaps a career path of promotions and different positions to attain for. So this idea of, what leadership is getting people to follow me and let me tell you what it is, versus a less top-down leadership creates more engaged leaders at every level of organization. Vicky Suter talks a lot about position agreements, not job descriptions, and how do we truly hand off responsibility, not delegate, not say this is what you need to do, but truly hand off responsibility so that they are truly empowered to handle it and also fully responsible. If it doesn't happen, it's not your fault, it's their fault. They're responsible for it. How do we get that leadership done and how do we get that handoff done? So interesting, good stuff. Greg posted this morning a topic that I see a decent number of folks talk about from time to time, and we already got some really good comments and insight on this. This is something Paul's been doing for, it's probably been about a year, it seems like, that Paul's been trying this out. But Greg was saying, looking to start charging for the initial in-home consultation, thinking of $100 to $150 to start and see where it goes. And he was getting some feedback and some insight on that. When you are crazy busy, this is something that you can consider doing. When you have a showroom, the other thing that you can do is say, we charge $150 to come out and do an in-home consultation. Here's what that looks like. Here's what that includes. By the end of that meeting, we'll be able to give you a pretty realistic ballpark range of where we think this project's going to be coming in at, and we can talk to you about next steps that would make sense. Or if you want to send us pictures, take photos, take some measurements, here's our little measurement guide that can help you do that. And if you want to come into our showroom, we'll do an hour meeting with you there for free. I've seen a lot of my clients have tested that out and experimented with that. But the biggest thing for Greg, and I'm not sure exactly why he's thinking about doing this, if it's just capacity, if it's to weed some people out early in the process just to protect his time more. But the biggest thing that comes to my mind is sell the value of it. What is the benefit and value to the person on the other end of that call? And two, be confident. If you make the decision to do this and you've got it, you're clear with what the benefits are to them, be confident. That confidence factor is such a huge key in selling this, in selling project design and project development is key. Confidence is key to charging more for what the service that we provide, of increasing our markup or margin. Okay, so there's some thoughts related to that. You know what we're doing on today's Remodeler Show, folks, is we are just taking a stroll through Remodelers Community. Paul posted this one yesterday. Anyone try advertising on Hulu? Evidently, Hulu is now offering the ability for you as an advertiser to set up an ad campaign, an ad account, specified around demographics, location, etc., and advertise from you directly to Hulu users, and have a minimum of $500 to get that started. With this access to their streaming audience, which is super interesting. It's kind of a brand new thing that they're rolling out. And per usual, Paul's on the cutting edge. And it's something that is kind of intriguing. So if anybody starts to experiment with that or use that or try that out, let us know how it goes. I was talking to one of my clients yesterday who's 3 full months into some TV advertising. Speaking of streaming versus TV, what he decided to do, he's about $1,000 a month in it. They're 15-second spots, and they're just focused on the evening local news channel, not cable, not other off times, but evening news, which costs a lot more than per spot than other spots, but we wanted to target it real close. Now, 3 months is a little bit of time, is a decent amount of time to evaluate something. But as we've been talking, he was getting a little antsy, and we were thinking through it and going, boy, it's been pretty quiet. We've gotten a couple calls that said, I've been seeing your TV ads, but they weren't an ideal project, didn't really turn into anything. And he'd been approached and was talking to a streaming, similar to kind of the Hulu type concept of more of a streaming advertising option where they can really show the demographics, the stats, the views, the impressions, etc. And wouldn't you know it, right when he was kind of thinking about shifting those dollars over to another advertising option, another TV related one, he generated 2 really nice leads last week. Just really ideal kitchen remodeling, interested in design type leads. And we're going to kind of stick with that local news. We just feel like his ideal clients are watching that, and it's a good spot. And it's one of those reminders that when we test something out, when we try something out, we always have to be wise to figure out, we don't want to cut it and try something new until we've given it its full try. We don't want to look back at it a year and a half from now and be like, well, we tried that. Well, if you only try it for 3 months, is that really building enough kind of eyeballs and recurring, et cetera? So we're going to let this roll for most likely the balance of the year. That way we got a full 6 months. We can really see what that looks like and then kind of evaluate it from there. And isn't it also, you guys see this where, you're getting ready to maybe not renew something or, change something around. And that's usually the time that you start to see some results from it, just to make you go, oh, come on, I was just about to make this decision and now that's happening. Okay. All right. So as we continue to just stroll through Remodelers Community as part of today's show, this is the one related to that Laurel posted related to materials. One thing that I'll just highlight related to Laurel is her business name is She Builds. She Builds, and she's primarily focused on kitchens. So even right there, nothing about her. But when you click on something, you immediately see she specializes in kitchens. All of her marketing, her taglines, her website is focused on kitchens, which also means all of her content that she's creating is focused on kitchens. She's not being all things to all people. The other thing she's doing is she's emphasizing and saying, hey, I'm a woman who does this. And that's unique in this industry. And she knows who her ideal client is. And she knows that messaging is going to attract her ideal client, which is mostly females, or the wife etc. Right? So this idea of not being all things to all people, she's taking, I guess, a risk by just focusing on kitchen. She's giving up bathrooms. She's giving up basements. She's giving up decks. She's giving up additions. But her message cuts through the clutter a lot clearer and cleaner. Her processes and systems can be all focused on kitchens, which makes her more efficient and productive and profitable. So just by seeing her name, I'll riff on that a little bit of saying, are we all things to all people? Are you going to narrow down the focus of who your ideal client is or what your ideal project is? I'm a business coach for residential remodelers who focus on kitchen, bath, addition, and that type of work. That is a pretty small little segment and slice. But because I do that, I'm more valuable to you guys. I've gone deeper into that niche. I'm able to create products and services and coaching and classes that specialize on your business and your needs. And I understand you better than sometimes than you understand yourself, because I've been doing this and I work with so many remodelers that are very similar. So keep that in mind as you kind of just strategize the rest of your year, strategize your messaging and what you're up to. Speaking of courses, if you go to remodelersmasterclass.com, I'm looking for some people who want to join me in the fall. I have picked, hand-selected 4 topics of courses that are valuable, that I have seen that when my remodelers implement the 4 areas that I'm talking about and that we're going to work through in September through December, it is a foundation that is extremely valuable and that puts you on a path to continued growth, profitability, efficiency, solid sales process, etc. So I'll continue to talk about that, but go to remodelersmasterclass.com. On the days that I'm doing those classes, which will be kind of twice a week, the Remodeler Show will be dark. On days that I'm doing my master classes and doing the course stuff, it's dark. So if you're like, Kyle, I need 30 minutes from you every single day, Monday through Friday, you'll have to sign up for the courses in the fall. That's kind of a silly thing, but okay, cool. And as we round out today's show, let me hit on a couple other things. Passy shared this back on the 30th, back on Sunday. He onboarded a new employee, realized by the end of the week that it wasn't going to work out, and boom, kind of decided, you know what, it's not going to work out, broke him the news on Friday. What he's thinking about and talking about and getting some feedback, and some good feedback, is, how did I not see this? During the interview process, he said all the right things. He had good experience, good pedigree. There's a little bit of guilt of he left another job to come aboard with him. But one thing I'd emphasize on this is when it's not a fit, rip the Band-Aid off, let them know it's not working out, and make that decision. There's so many employers who hold on to people far too long. And then there's some good feedback on this idea of, a 1-week probationary period before a formal job offer is made. Come work with us for, the next 3 days so we can kind of see mutually if this is a good fit. There's some other ways and some other considerations that you can look at as you onboard new employees. And then I'll end with this one. This was from Chris Mosley. Enhancify. He was talking about financing. And Adam with Capital Design shared this. He shared this a little bit 2 Fridays ago on the Remodeler Show as well when I interviewed him on there, that they signed up for Enhancify, and he's been surprised already of how many of his clients are taking him up on that. It's not a percentage of the deal. It's more just an upfront fee annually, I think it is. And it's been effective. Don't assume that your clients don't want an option for financing. Sometimes that might be the difference between them doing that second part of the project or frankly just moving forward with you. So I think it's something that I've been hearing more questions about that lately. And I think it's something that each of you should at least investigate and look into and consider. Rock and roll. It was a little different version of the Remodeler Show today. We took a stroll of Remodelers Community. Some pointers that I threw out there. Don't be shy about reaching out to other members. There's nothing cooler than these friendships that I'm seeing that are developing between members because somebody reached out, picked up the phone, called them, and it sparks something not just online but offline, which is super cool. Use the search feature. If you've seen people post on different topics or you're like, I wonder if anybody has talked about the difference between co-constructor, builder trend. Wonder what people's thoughts are on house advertising. Use that search field and just type in some of those keywords, and you're going to see just a nice archive of different examples or answers or posts that came before. Go to remodelersvaultcom. Get access to all of those templates, tools, and resources that I make available to you. And lastly, check out remodelersmasterclass.com. There's a big difference between a well-designed course on a specific topic where I'm going to walk you through, create SMART goals, create action steps, and get things implemented and done, and the rest of the content that you see from me where I'm just kind of sparking ideas and giving you some insight. That's valuable, but it's not nearly as valuable as spending the fall with me and hammering through 4 really key areas of the business. So check out remodelersmasterclass.com for more details on that. I'll be back tomorrow, folks, for another episode of the Remodeler Show. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Take care.